All right, ready to dig in. Today we're heading deep into a mine to uncover what it takes to be a mind shift manager. You guys sent in some really interesting stuff from RoleCatcher about it, and honestly, I'm pretty pumped to unpack this. Thinking about switching things up career-wise, getting ready for a big interview,
Yeah.
or maybe you just really want to know what goes on in those mine shafts. No
Yes.
judgment here, whatever the reason, we've got you covered.
Trust me, you came to the right place.
Right.
RoleCatcher. They're like way more than just your average job board. They really get into the nitty-gritty of different jobs, giving you those insider insights you won't find in a boring old job description.
Yeah, it's like they're giving you the inside scoop, right? Beyond just the bare minimum.
Yeah.
So let's start with the basics. What exactly does a mind shift manager do? I got to be honest, my mental image is kind of fuzzy. Hard hat, walkie-talkie, yelling something about quotas.
Well, not totally off base, but it's definitely way more than that. So RoleCatcher's definition says they're basically the conductors of this whole underground orchestra. They're in charge of all the staff, managing the equipment, making sure they're hitting those production targets. And huge one here, making sure everyone's safe in a place that, let's be real, has some serious risks.
Okay, conductor of an underground orchestra is way better than my yelling into the void scenario. Sounds like a huge responsibility, though. What does that actually look like day to day?
See, that's what I love about RoleCatcher. They don't sugarcoat anything. Their career stages section, it's a goldmine. Like a brand new Mindshift manager, they might be all about equipment checks, making sure the work area is safe, maybe even supervising some blasting operations depending on the mine.
So they don't just throw you to the wolves right away. There's actual, a path to move up.
100%. You climb that ladder, you might find yourself training the new folks on safety stuff, working with engineers on those extraction plans. Could even be managing budgets, negotiating contracts with suppliers. The further you go, the more strategic it gets, you know? And get this, that's where a business degree comes in handy. RoleCatcher actually mentions that.
You know, that is interesting. Not the first thing I'd think of for a mining career, I gotta say. But yeah, when you think about the management side, the strategy, it makes sense. So you go from hands-on supervision to making those big picture decisions as you gain experience. Pretty cool. We got to address the elephant in the room, though, right? Mining. Not exactly a walk in the park.
You got that right. It's a tough gig, mentally and physically. RoleCatcher doesn't shy away from that. Long hours, stressful situations. And of course, you're working in a mine, so that comes with its own set of risks.
It's got to take a special kind of person to really thrive in that environment. But RoleCatcher, they emphasize the rewards, too, and not just the money, though that's definitely there.
Right. They talk about, the feeling you get from solving these crazy, complex problems, leading a team when things get intense, being part of something that's, well, essential, you know?
Totally. We don't always think about it, but pretty much everything around us, it traces back to mining in some way. Okay, so someone's listening to this, they're hooked, they're thinking, all right, how do I become a mind shift manager? What's step one?
So not a huge surprise here, but you usually need a strong technical background. RoleCatcher, they mention mining engineering a lot. That's a common route. But here's the interesting thing. They also talk about degrees like mechanical engineering, geology, even environmental science being valuable.
Which, when you think about it, makes sense, right? You got to understand the machinery, the earth it's all happening in, the environmental impact.
Exactly. And like we were saying earlier, the whole management and business side is only getting more important as you move up. They specifically mention things like resource allocation, budgeting, contract negotiation. Those are all super valuable.
I'd imagine with how much tech is showing up in the industry, those skills are probably pretty high on the list, too.
100%. They've got this skills and technology section, and they talk about how Mindshift managers, they're working with some really advanced software now. Ventilation control, data coming in from all these sensors in the mine, even stuff for autonomous drilling rigs.
It's kind of wild how tech is changing the game, even for industries like mining that have been around forever. But no matter how tech-savvy you are, at some point, there's probably going to be an interview panel staring you down.
Yeah.
And that can be a little scary, even for someone who's been doing this a while.
Oh, tell me about it. I remember when I was...
Ooh. Do you have a good interview story?
Maybe another time. But you're right, interviews, they can definitely rattle your nerves. Luckily, RoleCatcher gets it because they have a whole section just for interview prep, specifically for aspiring Mindshift managers.
So, no handing you a pickaxe and saying good luck. What kind of guidance do they give?
They get into some seriously practical stuff. Like, they really stress that you need to show you've got the technical chops and the leadership skills. So picture this. They might ask you to break down like a whole ventilation system, or maybe talk about a time you had to make a tough call under pressure.
They want that balance.
Yeah.
Right? The hard skills and the soft skills, the leadership, the quick thinking.
Exactly. They even give you some sample interview questions. One that stuck with me was, okay, imagine this. Someone on your team, they just keep ignoring safety protocols. You've warned them a bunch of times. What do you do?
Ooh, yeah, that's a tough one. You really have to know your stuff, but also how to handle people, how to keep everyone safe.
Right. And they don't shy away from those behavioral questions either. The tell me about a time you had to motivate your team or how do you deal with conflict kind of
It's
stuff.
like they're trying to get into your head a little bit, see how you handle those curveballs, which, let's be real, in a mine,
Yeah,
those are going to happen.
for sure. And honestly, I think that's good advice for anyone, no matter what kind of job you're after. Knowing how to get your point across, solve problems when things get crazy, being a strong leader, that stuff matters everywhere.
So true. We can get so focused on the specifics of a job that we forget about those core skills, the things that make you successful no matter what.
Totally. And it's something RoleCatcher really seems to get based on all the stuff they're putting out there.
Man, this whole deep dive has been eye-opening. I feel like I have a way better understanding of what mind shift managers deal with, the challenges, the skills, everything. That whole thing about tech changing the game and how those management and leadership skills are becoming even more important, that really got me thinking.
Me too. And it gets you thinking about where this is all headed. What will a mind shift manager's job look like in a decade or two? Will we have all these automated minds, maybe even controlled remotely? And what does that mean for the skills and training people will need?
Now, that is a good question, and it just goes to show no matter what you do or want to do, you got to stay curious, stay adaptable. All right, so for anyone listening who's suddenly feeling that mining itch or just wants to see what RoleCatcher's all about, we'll drop a link in the show notes. They've got a ton of resources, and not just for future Mindship managers, but all kinds of careers. Who knows, maybe our next deep dive will uncover your dream job. Until then, stay curious out there.